postponed, the court dismissed an application to have the trial thrown out of court under Section 174 of the Criminal Procedure Act, citing lack of sufficient evidence to prosecute. Reacting to that ruling, Malema told scores of EFF supporters that the presiding magistrate, Toinette Olivier, is incompetent. The matter is scheduled to be heard from the 18th to the 20th of this month.
The IFP says the delivery of basic services is KwaZulu-Natal Premier Tamintuli's priority. For the first time since 2004, the IFP is back in the leadership of KwaZulu-Natal, but this time through a government of provincial unity. The ANC, the IFP, the DA and the NFP agreed to work together to govern the province. In last month's elections, the Umkhonto weSizwe party won in KwaZulu-Natal, but without an outright majority. The IFP spokesperson Mkhuleko Hlengwa says Ntuli has the expertise to take the province forward.
We fundamentally believe that his experience, knowledge and expertise speak for themselves as somebody who is going to be able to take forward the province of KwaZulu-Natal. The coalition government will obviously have to merge manifestos and ideas of the various parties who form part of this government to ensure that there is a clear developmental direction for the province of KwaZulu-Natal. But similarly, the basics have to be done. We need to get municipalities right. We need to ensure that the provision of water is there, fix the economy for the better, the revitalization of the economic hub.
Police in Gauteng have again called on the public not to confront a suspect who fired on 4 people and burnt 2 girls inside a shack in Shoshanguve north of Pretoria more than 2 weeks ago. They are offering a 100,000 rand reward for information that could lead to the arrest of Dennis Nyatsunga. The girls aged 7 and 4 were shot multiple times before being burnt. Police say the suspect, whose identity has been widely distributed on social media, faces charges of attempted murder and arson. Gauteng Police spokesperson Mavela Masondo says the suspect is armed and dangerous.
It is reported that the suspect is originally from Mozambique, but he might still be in South Africa. He is said to be using a fraudulent passport and asylum seeker papers. The suspect is short and dark in complexion. Anyone with information about his whereabouts is requested to contact Major General Mbuso Khumalo or call Lieutenant Colonel Andile Mankanyi. All information will be treated with confidentiality.
And finally, witnesses in Malawi say a car swerving to avoid a convoy carrying the body of the Vice President Saulos Chilima caused a crash in which 4 people were killed on Sunday night. Earlier reports had said a vehicle in the motorcade itself ploughed into mourners in a village. It has emerged a car travelling in the opposite direction hit a crowd that had lined the streets to see Chilima's coffin. Recapping the top story, womanist and socio-economic activist Mandisa Mashego says a petition alone cannot lead to the removal of a member of parliament. A statement follows the apology of the DA MP Ronaldo Gous for his controversial video that has sparked racism allegations against him. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CAR to 43517. Did you know that with Outsurance Essential, valid claims are paid out in cash? Let me say that again. Outsurance Essential pays your car insurance claim in cash. That's cash paid into your bank account that you can use to repair your car at any panel beater of your choice. Outsurance Essential for cars older than 5 years, not financed and valued under 125,000 rand. SMS CAR to 43187 for a quote. That's CAR to 43187. SMS now. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Cricket, the Proteas captain Aiden Markram is calling for a more complete game from the Proteas as they take on the USA at the T20 World Cup. And soccer, Bafana's Relebohile Mofokeng earns praise for his fearless debut from captain Ronwen Williams. Details coming up just before 7:30.
SAFM. guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Route 1 out of Pretoria to Joburg looking fairly busy. There's queues from Stormful Road heading down towards the N4, the Emerlithini and Hatfield split. And then it gets really bad between Brockfontein and New Road. There's traffic all the way through this morning, plus a breakdown in pretty much the middle of the highway around Samrand Road. So that backlog's just going to deteriorate from here. The N12 and R24 routes coming in from Ekurhuleni towards Gilulis. Looks like a problem there as you link off those highways onto the N3 North for a turn up towards Edenvale. That's heavy. Crash between Skopra and Umkamas, also roadwork, so that's a bit complicated in terms of causing heavy delays this morning. A breakdown at Linfield Park, south of Pietermaritzburg, holding traffic towards Durban. And if you're around Cape Town this morning, crash on probably in the wrong area completely in terms of the impact. So it's Bosmansdam Road at Montague Drive. That's where the crash is. Very heavy coming out of Edgemead. So Bosmansdam Road, Edgemead Drive's all badly backed up in towards Summer Greens and Montague Gardens. And behind that, the N7 struggling to get off at Bosmansdam. That is queuing already back to Four Trekker Road in Goodwood. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
7:09. Good morning. In a moment, the new Premier of Limpopo, someone you've heard before on this program, Dr. Poppy Ramatuba, elected Premier there last week. We'll hear from her. Also, the situation in the Northern Cape. There's quite strange agreement. It seems Freedom Front Plus agreed to support the ANC in the Northern Cape on the condition that the provincial ANC did not try to undermine the settlement of Oranje, which is a sort of identifies, I suppose, as a kind of Afrikaner, or maybe whites-only settlement, depending on how you see these things. We'll speak to the Freedom Front Plus in the Northern Cape in a moment. We'll talk about load reduction in your mediated conversation. It's the kind of new load shedding. That'll be from 8:30 with SAFM. Good morning, 7:10.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Well, important changes coming to our provinces, of course, after the provincial legislatures elected premiers on Thursday and Friday last week. In Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi was elected with help from the ANC and the DA. In KwaZulu-Natal, the IFP's Tami Ntuli being inaugurated today. He received votes from the IFP, the ANC, the DA and the NFP. Meanwhile, in Limpopo, the ANC has a commanding majority there. The former health MEC, Dr. Poppy Ramatuba, was elected Premier there. She joins us now. Madam Premier, good morning and congratulations.
Morning and morning to all your listeners, and thank you very much.
We're in a new political era. What do you think the main priority for the provincial government in Limpopo needs to be at the moment? And I presume unemployment and growing the economy has got to be part of it.
Yes, I think the reality of the matter is that the economy of the country is not really doing well. At the same time, the expectations from our people in terms of the jobs, it's high even on ourselves in terms of our agenda to say, also guided by the ANC manifesto, because that manifesto has been thoroughly researched and we've looked at why our people are starting to lose confidence in us, and jobs and unemployment was found to be one of the biggest challenge that is facing our people, including Limpopo. What worsened is that as a rural province, you can see that even the discouraged work seekers percentage is very high in the province. Well, the people in the rural area having to travel every day to town, to Polokwane, living from Mwesho or Masisi or Zingi to Polokwane every day to look for a job. It's discouraging, especially when you don't get. So hence, it becomes worse in rural provinces like ours. Hence, we are planning to say that the second priority was to say ANC has really committed towards the building of new industries. So industrialization, for me, focusing on both mining sector and also the agriculture sector, so that agro-processing becomes the priority, our priority. And equally, the tourism sector in our province, that we think as a province, we are blessed with the abundance of natural resources. We can do a lot. But that also, having said that, we still need to really look at the priority of investing on our people. Where you are saying water is a serious challenge in our province. You will have Nandoni Dam full to capacity, but the water is not getting into the taps of the people in Shandini.
Sure.
The Warp Dam Flag Bushelo, they are full. But when you go to Jane First, people don't have water. So that is a second priority before we even think about roads, because even roads are our priority, but water, there's no alternative to water. If you don't have water, hence they said there's no life.
And Madam Premier, the former Premier was Stanley Matabata. He's still the chair of the ANC in the province. Are you worried about the problem of two centres of power? You're the Premier, you have the legal power. But for the moment, he may have the political power. Are you worried about that?
No, not really worried, because the ANC is a strategic centre, and whatever we do, all of us, it's a collective decision. We are guided by them. As I've said, there's a manifesto of the ANC, which we are going to have an ANC Lekgotla that will come up with policies as guided by that manifesto. And then when we have our own ex-co Lekgotla, it will be derived from the ANC Lekgotla. So if all of us focus on what is to be done, which is service delivery, which is those priorities that when we did door to door, we were promising our people, I don't think there should be any problem, because all what we need is to make sure that our voters come back and say, yes, you came, you promised, you have delivered. And hence I'm saying even the reporting channels, the reality is that the ANC also in the province has got its own officials, will be looking to the day-to-day. We also have got a working committee, which I'm also part of that working committee, which must be able to process issues to the PEC, which I'm also part of that PEC. So I don't see us having to walk past each other, especially if we can both focus on what is at stake, which is service delivery.
And ma'am, it's amazing to me that you're the first woman premier of Limpopo. Limpopo's never had a woman premier before. 30 years after democracy. Are you surprised by that?
I'm not surprised, because the gender struggles, patriarchy struggles that we still face in our country. If you look nationally, if I'm to be honest, we have even regressed, because if you look at the female premiers in the country, it's only Limpopo and Free State. While there was a time wherein we could have up to 4 female premiers, we have really regressed at that level. So it's not surprising. But we should also remember that these struggles, especially if I'm to zoom in my province, for instance, Comrade Mama Joyce Mashamba, who was one of my mentors, unfortunately, her soul rest in peace. She has been fighting for this to find women being elevated, and she's not the only one. Bomam Lydia Komap, and many of them. There are other women who are still with us. Bomama Dikeleli Makaz, Bomaite Nkwana Mashaban, Maite Maruta. Just to mention a few, another mother of mine who was my mentor, Mama Catherine Mabuza. At some stage, she was the MEC in the Premier's office. They have been through, even the ANC Women's League and all progressive women structures have been in the forefront of the struggles of gender oppression, which even today we still have got to deal with. If you look at issues of gender-based violence, people, like 30 years into democracy, that's the only time you are celebrating a woman to be a premier. And also, which is not a given position, women had to work very hard, and I think maybe this provides an opportunity to a young woman growing in the rural areas like I did, to say, if you work hard and get committed, because moving forward, all of political parties will be forced to look into the merit and quality. It will no longer be about you get this position for that. But I can tell you, while I'm excited to say in my province I've got a speaker and a deputy speaker who are women. At the National Assembly we've got a speaker who is a woman and a deputy speaker who is a woman. At NCOP we've got a chairperson who is a woman. That we must also celebrate, but to say more still needs to be done, because I strongly believe women are even much more capable than many men out there.
Dr. Poppy Ramathuba, the Premier of Limpopo, thank you very much indeed. 18 after 7.
The Trilidor Ultimate Big Blue Sale is now on. Get amazing discounts on the best security South Africans trust. With over 50 franchises across the country, you can always find a security expert near you. So call 0861 Trilidor or visit trilidor.co.za today. Terms and conditions apply.
Come closer. Over here. Man, oh man, do I have something to tell you? Huh? You know what would happen if you weren't here? No SABC Sport, no The Masked Singer, no Espresso, no Afternoon Express, no Ready Steady Cook, no news and current affairs, no radio, no nothing. Just dololo, silence. But you, my friend, you make it happen. Because you pay your home and business TV license, now we can deal or no deal. Skim Sam, Mubango, Hectic 99 and Fuetspura. Gozeguse, Jovijo. So please keep on keeping on and doing the right thing so we can make new memories and tell stories for the now generation. SABC TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
37-year-old Tebogo got a really great deal on his car insurance premium from Outsurance. He pays an amazing R762 per month to insure his white 2018 Ford Figo Ambiente. He now has extra cash every month to go out for a meal with his friends. Get an Outsurance quote today. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754 now. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
At SFM Radio and at Stephen Grootes on Twitter.
19 minutes after 7, good morning. In the Northern Cape, it's emerged that the Freedom Front Plus member of the provincial legislature there voted for the ANC's candidate to be Premier, Zamani Saw, on the condition that the ANC in the province not undermine the self-determination of the settlement of Orania. Orania is a community in that province that identifies itself as being only for Afrikaans people, which means that in essence, in reality, I think it's really a whites-only town, although one person in that voting station did vote for the EFF in the elections. The leader of the Freedom Front Plus in the Northern Cape is Dr. Wayne Boshoff. I don't normally mention people's families, but they may be important here, so I will. Dr. Boshoff's father was Karel Boshoff, who founded Orania. His grandfather, I understand, was in fact Hendrik Verwoerd. Dr. Boshoff, good morning, and thank you for your time this morning.
Morning, Stephen, and thank you for the pedigree.
What agreement did you reach with the ANC in the Northern Cape regarding Orania?
Well, our agreement entails more than Orania. It's actually four things. The one is that our member must be the chairperson of the Oversight Committee for local government, because that is actually the you could say, that's where things fall apart in the Northern Cape, is on the municipal level, and oversight has definitely not been up to standard for the past 30 years or 20 years since the new municipal dispensation. The other thing is that there will be a public implementing agency for public-private partnerships, in which the Freedom Front would be part of the recruitment of the person who will establish it, and which will work on infrastructure development all over the province for all areas, both in terms of the mining areas where the roads are actually, trodden to nothing by these very heavy and many ore carriers, and then also empty spaces in the Northern Cape, in the Karoo area, where much can be done, especially with renewable energy, which of which it is the that is a place.
I'm so sorry
it's
to
the new Witbank area.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Boshoff. I do need to get to the point, I'm afraid, because we're going to rush out of time. Regarding Orania, what settlement did you reach with the ANC?
Yeah, Orania has attained a lot in constitutional terms in reality, which has not been taken into into a formal agreement or an accord or something like that, and that is what has been done now. I call it a kind of ratchet approach. You can still move on a little bit, but it has clicked. You can't move backwards after such an agreement. So Orania has its own municipality, in fact, not in law, and then it also has its own relation with different departments on national and provincial level regarding education, regarding health, regarding water and sanitation, which are all manifestation manifestations of its self-sufficiency or its special, it doesn't go through the municipality or even the district municipality to do that. And that has all been recognized, and the way has been opened to go forward. So what has actually been done is the tools were given in the hands of Orania to say, okay, you can go on. The government is not going to do it for Orania, but Orania has been set free to do whatever it has the ability to do.
Okay, a couple of legal things. As I understand it, the provincial government would really have no say in the matter whatsoever. Any kind of things, to boundaries or agreements or anything would be national government anyway, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, we are not speaking about boundaries or stuff. I mean, Orania is legally, it's private land. It's a few different land-owning entities. One is a cooperative, one is a share block company. I'm not sure about every single one. So Orania is, you could call it a federation of private landowners. And yeah, I don't exactly get the point.
Okay, well, let's get to the issue then. Why is it so important that this settlement be treated differently to every other settlement? And I don't think we can remove for a second the issue of race here, because I think the perception of most South Africans, and I think a perception with a large amount of evidence, that what people are trying to do is to create a whites-only community.
Yeah, I think you actually had it correct in the introduction to say it's an Afrikaner town. Now, every cultural group in South Africa has some traditional areas, places where if you want to live there, you have to make an arrangement with some kind of traditional authority. Now, our authority is not traditional, it's a democratic authority elected by the inhabitants. But that is exactly the point. We want to normalize Orania. Orania is not something peculiar or something unknown of in the rest of South Africa. There are I could say literally hundreds of similar establishments where you have to be part of a specific clan, or you have to associate actively with that clan in order to become part of the community. And in that sense, Orania is not much different, and there's not a song and dance about every one of those.
Okay,
we want to normalize relations with Orania.
All right. Okay, I understand what you say, but it is my understanding that in many of the areas of what I presume you're referring to, a communally owned land, that in fact people who do not come from those communities, if they have a relationship with that community or if they choose to live there, can go and ask the traditional leader or whoever the administrator is. We've had phone calls from white people who've gone to, leaders in Pedi communities in areas in the north of the country and said, may I please live here? And the person said, sure, they've reached an agreement. I presume that you would not stop a black person who wanted to come and live in Orania from doing the same thing.
Exactly. We have a process that one has to initiate. There is, in fact, no communal land to be distributed. So that's a little bit different. You have to buy something in order to live there or rent something. The Secretary General of the ANC in the Northern Cape, Mr. Deshin Klanga, I can't make the click at the exact right place, he also applied. He didn't pursue his application until the point that he got residency, but so as many other people. And you are exactly right that any person, we are within the Constitution of South Africa, and we realize what that means.
Okay, I think I need to put this in a very broad way, because I think this is a fundamental question. What is it about the rest of us that you don't like? That people who want to go and live in Orania feel they need to go and live with people only like themselves? What have the rest of us done?
No, it's nothing like that. It's a community within the South African community of communities. If you go to a place like Komaggas or Concordia or Steenkop, all Northern Cape communities, nobody asks that. Nobody asks, why do you stay here where you are only Namas or whatever. So the idea of having a community continuing itself it's not a foreign idea, or it's not an outlandish kind of idea. It works all over the world, that you have communities who have a distinct character, and they are in relation with the rest of the country and with the rest of the area, and that is exactly what this let's call it an accord with the Northern Cape amounts to say we want to, in a certain sense, structure our relation with the rest of the country, and in this case with the provincial government. There's nothing funny about that.
Dr. Wynand Boshoff, thank you, leader of the Freedom Front Plus in the Northern Cape.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. Aidan Makram's looking ahead to the US.
Yes, he knows it's time for our boys to show the USA that cricket isn't just baseball with a flat bat. That's the Proteas in their T20 World Cup match tomorrow against the co-host USA, all happening at Sir Vivian Richards Stadium in Antigua. Now, despite their struggles with the bat in the group stage, where the Proteas posted low totals, the bowlers have kept them in contention. Captain Aidan Markram is looking for a more complete game from the team.
I'm looking forward to that phase now of the competition. Really grateful that we are in the Super 8s, and hoping that we can put a more complete game of cricket together now that we move forward to the business end of the competition.
Now, soccer, Bafana captain Ronwen Williams says the newly capped young sensation Relebohile Mofokeng fully deserves his international debut against Zimbabwe last week. Williams understands the significance of the young player like Mofokeng within the team.
I mean, he deserves it. The season he's had at such a young age, and when I see him and when I interacted with him in the Bafana camp, he's such a happy spirit, a happy boy. He just wants to play football. There's no ego, there's no sulking. He's just happy and he wants to play football, and I love that. He's different from the rest of the youngsters, where he's just happy, he just wants a ball at his feet. And I was watching him throughout the week and see how he handles himself, how he carries himself, and he just makes me so happy, to see him every day. And I get excited to see him, because he's so happy. He's always got a smile on his face. He's speaking to everyone. And when I watched him at training, he's fearless.
That's Bafana captain Ronwen Williams on the newly capped young sensation Relebohile Mofokeng. And finally, results from Euro 2024. So France kicking off their campaign with a 1-0 win over Austria in Group D. And Belgium, disappointment for them. They lost to lower-ranked Slovakia 1-0 in their Group E opener. And Romania recording their first victory at a European Championships in 24 years with a 3-0 win over Ukraine, also in Group E. That's a wrap of your Sport on Sunrise. We'll have more for you, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thanks very much indeed. More, of course, on the situation in the KwaZulu-Natal. That's next to you with SFM, leading the conversation at 7:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, government says it's finalizing its preparations for the inauguration of the President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa at the Union Buildings in Pretoria tomorrow. Womanist and socio-economic activist Mandisa Mashego says a petition alone cannot lead to the removal of a Member of Parliament. A statement follows the apology of the DA MP Ronaldo Gous for his controversial video that has sparked racism allegations against him. And witnesses in Malawi say a car swerving to avoid a convoy carrying the body of the Vice President Saulos Chilima caused a crash in which 4 people were killed on Sunday. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
There's plenty of traffic between Pretoria and Joburg this morning. First queue is the N1 South, just coming between Stormful Road and the N4 Emelethani split. That's slow. Then it gets really heavy from Brockfontein down towards a New Road, plus a broken down vehicle in that mix just before Olifantsfontein. The N1 North is quite slow, coming up from 14th Avenue around to Rivonia Road, slow enough to surprise motorists that might be thinking they'll get through a bit quicker this morning. And the N12 and R24 roads coming in from Ekurhuleni are quite heavy to Galulis. Looks like an issue as you come off those highways and link on to the N3 to go north up towards Linksfield Road. Durban's N2 very heavy this morning up through the roadworks. We're currently queuing from the cement factory right the way through to Westwood Mall. That is busier than normal. I think there's probably at least one breakdown in amongst that big backlog. The N3 out of Pietermaritzburg stays busy between Ashburton and Linfield Park. That is a breakdown in the roadworks, and the crash between Scotborough and Umkam are still slowing traffic on the N2 north. If you're driving in off the south coast, that's quite heavy. And then Cape Town, major delay alert if you use the N7 every morning. It's always busy going to Bosmansdam Road, but this morning complicated by a crash at the junction of Bosmansdam Road and Montague Drive. So that Bosmansdam Road, heavy backlogs out of the Boortesak and Edgemead area. Edgemead Drive badly backed up towards Bosmansdam. The N7 bridge is horrible, and then trying to get off the N7, well, that's near impossible into that thick traffic on Bosmansdam. So the N7 queues right back to Trekker Road in the Goodwood area. A bit of rain around the Greater Cape Town area as well. More rain moving in across the course of the day. Please keep road safety top of mind if you're driving through it. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
In Taoleng, morning again. How the market's looking this morning?
Kicking things off in Asia. Now, those equities are rallying today, tracking another tech-driven record on Wall Street, while investors awaited fresh U.S. economic data to get a better handle on the outlook for inflation. Now, with that, the Japanese Nikkei is trading 0.8% higher, while China's Shanghai index is up 0.35%. In the US, futures surprisingly flat. This after an upbeat performance yesterday. Perhaps we'll be seeing some caution ahead of that key data. Now, back at home, the JSE closed off last week on a high, up 0.9% as expected, continue to trade in the green after Cyril Ramaphosa was re-elected as president. On the currency front, the rand is faring pretty well. We are seeing strong gains as it breaks under 18.30. The local unit is currently trading at 27 to the greenback.
And Westpac Lifestyle, they filed for voluntary business rescue. That's interesting.
That's right. Now, retailer Westpac Lifestyle is experiencing financial troubles, and as you said, has voluntarily entered the business rescue process. Company CEO Jose De Silva said the board recognized that the company is financially distressed as it was not making enough money to pay debts. The group's financial troubles are largely due to a poorly executed expansion plan. It said that the high capital cost of opening stores and the increased inventory mix ate into its cash and ability to repay a debt, while unsold inventory increased because of incorrect stocks mix and product mix. Westpac has also been victim to tough local economic environment, and it struggled to recover from the impact of last year's load shedding. Now, the group owns about 52 stores across Africa. It employs over 900 people, and the business rescue proceedings is aimed to save the company and jobs.
And then the economic week ahead, we've still got figures for CPI and retail sales.
So the health of the South African consumer will be under the spotlight this week, with consumer inflation and retail sales prints due tomorrow. Starting off with inflation. Now, Nedbank economists expect prices to remain steady at 5.2% in May on an annual basis. And month on month, economists expect consumer prices to have increased at a slower rate of 0.2% from 0.3%. Now, the monthly moderation will result from a slower increase in fuel prices. Stats SA is also releasing retail sales numbers for April, and economists expect a slowdown in sales, pegging it at 1.5% in April from 2.3% in March. Now, economists say that growth is being driven by weak base effects and the improvement in real incomes as the rate of inflation starts slowing.
In Taoleng, thanks very much indeed. Do appreciate it. Back tomorrow. More business news through the day here on SAFM. 24 minutes to 8.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Let's start in Bombela, Nelspruit. Nangomhlaba, hi, good morning. You heard that conversation about Orania?
Yes, is the gentleman still there with you?
No, he's not, Nangomhlaba. I'm sorry.
I think there's no point. But really, I think you let him go scot-free there. Because first of all, there's no truth in what he's saying. But there are also other places in the country where before you stay, you need to subscribe to what the culture of that people is. For instance, if you go to the Pondo land or you go anywhere, you don't have to be paid if you go to the Mabedi area. The main reason you will go to the tribal offices is that they don't want people who have committed crimes elsewhere to come and hide in their areas. So they want to know who is staying in their area. But it's not to say that because you are now coming from the Mabedi land to the Pondo land, you must now speak Sepedi and subscribe to the studies, and also he speaks of residence. The minute he speaks of residence, it means you are in another country, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue with this Orania thing. And I'm surprised that our government has allowed that nonsense to go on for this long, to be honest.
Sure.
And I wanted to ask him on a lighter note, because we've heard that during the voting, there was one person who voted for EFF, and I'm sure they all want to know who that person is. I wanted to ask him if they've now known who that person is, what they're going to do with him or her.
Yes, no, I know. Langam Plaba, I found that fascinating. Thank you. On the line from Bombela and Nelspruit there. Pasika on the line from Mtata. Hi, Pasika, the new government. Go for it.
Stephen, it's quite a wise observation from you guys that there is a wave of positivity and change which is sweeping the country. But also the South African electorate should also be appreciated because of its ability to notice that there is a room for what I would call a middle way type of politics, which I would say it has been brought into the fore by the likes of Rise Mzansi. But most critically, Stephen, I think it depends as to whether this wave of change will translate into tangibles, into something practical, because currently it is purely theoretical.
Yeah.
Lastly, Stephen, I wanted to tickle your fancy and find out if you guys from the media sector have noticed that during this whole era of pre and post elections, there is a voice which has been conspicuous about its absence. In this regard, it would be the Zubera Institute and Kolani Dube. If my memory serves me well, I would recall that there was a time where you had a confrontation with the KZN provincial government, and the likes of Sibusiso Dumo and Mtola, they had petitioned the SAPC. I wonder if you guys are noticing, or are you taking notice of that?
So, Pasika, all I can say is, I can't speak on behalf of the SAPC at all, but all I can say is that it's a very fine line sometimes between an analyst and an activist. And we speak to people for different reasons. If we want to speak to someone as an analyst, we don't speak to them if they're an activist. And I think maybe that line was crossed in his case.
It's enough said.
All right, Pasika, thank you very much indeed. Chris on the line from Peter Maritzburg, Umsunduzi. Chris, hi, good morning.
Morning, Steve. The conduct of Limpopo seems to, I'm not sure if I'm the only one who's seen this. During the press conference of MK, when he narrated how many cases they've lodged, towards the end he kind of inferred that only the Constitutional Court would always rule against them. Which to me plays at discrediting the Constitutional Court, which we know is a Jacob Zuma narrative that he wants to push. As an advocate and an officer of the court, is that allowed?
Do you know, Chris, I don't know. My understanding was that advocates are not allowed to talk about cases they're involved in, which is why we never interview them. You know, you always interview the attorney, you never interview the advocate. And I know that this is not the first time, by the way, that he's been involved in press conferences, so I'm not sure what the rule is. And it will be up to the advocate's body. I mean, he's certainly done nothing illegal.
Yes, but to me, it's really bringing the whole advocate's body into disrepute. If you remember very well, when he defended the former SARS commissioner, Judge Nugent did reprimand him that some of his utterances are more political speeches than legal arguments. So he seems to be the only person who believes he can dovetail between being an officer of the law as well as being a politician. And really using such platforms and really stoking this anti-constitutional court sentiments among the supporters of former President Jacob Zuma is really uncalled for, especially for him in his position, as well as how he was introduced there, because he was introduced there as an advocate.
Yeah.
And I really wonder what the body will say.
All right, Chris and Peter Maritzburg, thank you. Yeah, no, I think it's an important issue in a way. Victor Mankweng, hi, Orania.
Good morning, Stephen.
Yeah, go for it. Good morning, Victor.
My name is Victor from Mankweng here.
Yeah.
You know, our country is getting divided in pieces and pieces. I don't know this Orania to be the second Orania whereby people must move away from the Afrikaner speaking. If you ever look now, there's a place somewhere in the Northern Cape. There are Africans who are staying there. The schools only teach in Afrikaans.
Yeah.
And they are forced to teach in Afrikaans. Somebody did phone at one stage whereby they are forced to teach in Afrikaans. So if you don't know this language, where the hell do one have to go to now? You know, it's coming back again.
Oh, Victor,
People are running out there and some chiefs around that place.
Yeah.
I can't remember which province it is. People are forced to sell their property just because they're next to Orania. Then lighting that place, at the end of the day, blacks will have to go to live in the mountain again. The same Afrikaners are doing the same story. Boshoff was a principal here in Mangwe, University of the North. So I think they are related to those people. I don't know when are we going to have a freedom in this country, where you would push left and right to the mountain. Mahua's crew, they've taken, there used to be Africans staying there. Even the tomato factory somewhere, the family people, they've taken over.
Victor, that line's just dropped. Don't know. Sorry about that. That's very frustrating that the line just drops. I mean, look, there are important issues that come out of all of this. I'm not aware, I must just say myself, of people being forced to move out of any area because of the establishment of Oranje or any other similar thing. I mean, I'm not aware of that at this stage, I must just say. 16 minutes to 8.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
Well, Tommy and Tuli from the Inkatha Freedom Party is due to be sworn in at the as the new Premier of KwaZulu-Natal today, part of the series of provincial inaugurations we will see over the week, and then, of course, the presidential inauguration, Cyril Ramaphosa, tomorrow. Tommy and Tuli elected with support from the IFP, the ANC, the DA, and the National Freedom Party. Sandile Swan is a political and governance analyst. Sandile, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Steve, and good morning to the listeners of SAFM. Thank you.
So much has changed since we spoke to you last. How difficult do you think it's going to be in KZN? It's quite a big coalition, the IFP, the ANC, the DA, the NFP. I mean, one of them's got one seat, one of them has more seats than the other. One of them is the biggest party in the national government, but is only the second biggest party in KwaZulu-Natal. There's a lot to look at.
Yes, there's a lot to look at, but Steve, we've got to be fair to the people of KZN and the leaders of KZN. Obviously, politics nationally are in a state of flux, so everybody will be affected one way or the other, the Northern Cape and elsewhere. We've seen changes. Why am I putting it like that? You'll remember that from the start, KZN, the ANC was not able to win KZN. KZN is one of the provinces that are most experienced, number one, in running on the back of a coalition. And number two, KZN is also one of those provinces which had to negotiate actual political violence, the largest amount of strictly political violence since the start of the liberation struggle was conducted between 1990 and 1994. In KZN and other areas where Inkatha had a presence. And Zuma, third point, Zuma and some of the leaders of Inkatha were part of the process of silencing the guns in KZN. So if the will is there, the experience and the skills are there to find a way of making KZN work. And the last statement by Umkhonto on behalf of Jacob Zuma said that they are going to use constitutional means and they are going to be able to sit in the opposition benches in as much as they are in the constitutional court trying to challenge the results, but they are going to use peaceful and constitutional means to do all of that.
So, I mean, in a way, what's interesting is how important Zuma was in the early 1990s, bringing that peace between the IFP and the ANC. Now he's operating against both of those parties. With the EFF, they come to 39 seats out of 80 seats. So, I mean, it's going to be quite tough in a way. The provincial government's going to have to work really hard, I think.
Yes, Stephen, in terms of the day-to-day politics, they are going to work very hard. Inkatha has actually run government in that province. They've still got some of the most experienced civil servants, some of the most experienced DGs and things like that. And the thing that Duma and Mtolo did, who were leading the ANC there, actually I think they misunderstood the importance of Zulu culture and the need to focus on actual on-the-ground development, the actual on-the-ground running of municipalities and infrastructure and so on. And they were busy with all sorts of miscellaneous politics. And I think this is a period, if the 1990s was a period of silence in the guns, this is probably a period of silence in politics in KZN and focus on actual technical work of getting the province to work properly. So my hope is there, because I actually had hoped that the younger Duma and younger Mtolo could actually start to display professional excellence in KZN and focus on the work to get done, and they actually did the opposite. And I think this coalition now has got a chance to do just that. But the only thing that has got to be done is to silence the war rhetoric, war talk, and all such things, and get the job done.
It seems to me, I mean, in KZN and the national government, all of the parties are going to have trouble or members who are deeply unhappy. I mean, we know, of course, there'll be some people in the ANC who will be very frustrated that it's working with the DA and national government and in KZN. There'll be people in the IFP who are frustrated about this. There'll be people in the DA who are frustrated about this. Are all parties threatened by this in a way, and perhaps because it's the biggest in national government, the ANC the most?
Let me confess maybe a weakness straight up front, that in as far as the cooperation with other parties, I give the IFP more credit than others, because they were born in those politics of having to cooperate. I mean, up until very recently, they were even cooperating with the EFF in KZN until all hell broke loose elsewhere. But Dayton and Malema fought with all sorts of people, especially the DA. Then that impacted on the IFP. So if I were to rate this organization and rank them, the ANC is definitely in a crisis. I mean, I think I saw a publication where they were warning their members that anybody who is discovered to be opposing the GNU will be subject to disciplinary. So clearly there are difficulties within the ANC itself and amongst its allies. The DA says that it has prepared its own members for this day to come. These are not good surveys, but I was at a wedding in Krugersdorp this past weekend with a lot of Afrikaners there, and they were still could be quite pleased with what the DA is doing with this coalition. So it's not the same for everybody. I think the DA and its supporters see a lot of prospects. Obviously, the DA and the Freedom Front Plus cannot be the same thing. They see things a little bit differently. But the DA and the IFP, to me, those two, for now, they are quite positive. The ANC is probably one of those organizations that are under extreme pressure. Gaten Mackenzie is an opportunist. If his people are given jobs, he'll hang around, but he can never be trusted to be a permanent player in anything, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Sandile Swanepoel, thank you very much indeed. Political and governance analyst, 9 minutes now to 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
If you're around the Mandini side of KZN, just south of Tugela River, there's been a massive crash. The roadway is blocked and there's very heavy traffic backlogging. So Mandini through to Kwatakuzi. You might want to just move over and use the N2 as the alternative route. The backlog on the R102 is pretty severe. Talking of severe, Durban's N2 North is under big pressure this morning. There's traffic queuing from effectively Cement Factory right through 4 level up in towards Westwood Mall. Mall area, and the top end of the M4, the Southern Freeway to Durban, stays busy with the closure of Brook Street, which continues through this week. That's the top end of the M4, so you have to sort of divert, often go through the market area, Warwick Triangle, and all gets a bit busy. Joburg's N12 and R24 route, some really extreme traffic delays coming into Galilee's interchange. If you're in a hurry coming from the airport or Boksburg and Benoni, you might want to avoid those. The N12 off-ramp at Craft Road, the R24 off-ramp at Barber Road, and hit some alternative routes. In Cape Town, the N7 going north stays heavy from Goodwood through to Bosmansdam. That's after an earlier crash on Bosmansdam Road at Montague Drive. And the N1 into town, the heaviest of the highways. The rest of the highways pretty open this morning, but the N1's got some traffic from Plattercliff Hill, N1 City Territory, all the way through to the elevated freeway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
Well, you know the number, of course, 086 000 2032. 7 minutes now to 8 the time. So many other stories we just want to check in on for you this morning. And a new report, it's called the Global Adult Tobacco Survey, was released last week. It looks at how many people are actually smoking and who is smoking and what they're smoking. Dr. Sharon Nyatsanza is the Deputy Director of the National Council Against Smoking. Dr. Nyatsanza, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen.
The percentage of people smoking in our population has actually increased in the last few years. I was staggered to find this. It went down after 2012. Now it's increased again. Why do you think this has happened?
So yes, we see an increase from about 20% around 2012, and with a long period of stagnancy. Now we're starting to see that 29.4% of South Africans are smoking, so a surge like you indicating. And one of the key reasons, the contributing reasons, are outdated policies. The laws that we have were put in place around 1995, last amended in 2008, just to introduce regulations to effect that policy. But we now have, for example, new products that are not regulated. So that's just how the tobacco control space unfortunately works. The industry is incredibly innovative, and policy has to keep up to pace. If it doesn't, these are the results that we see.
So what needs to... this is the big tobacco in a way. What's the tobacco industry been doing that's clearly been successful for them?
So one of the things that they've done is introduce new products. We have e-cigarettes now in the market, and they've been around now about 12 years, right? About 12 years, and they're not regulated. We also have on the side of tax, we haven't seen massive tax increases. Around 2012, we had a tax target of 52%. So 52% of the retail price would actually, be tax. And unfortunately, in 2024, around 52%, 53% is still the targeted tax. So we still haven't seen much of a change there. And we have, for example, textual warnings in South Africa. Text warnings on every cigarette pack. Those were introduced in 1995. They've never been changed. There've never been any rotation. And what global evidence shows is that we now have pictorial warnings being introduced in other countries, but at the same time, evidence shows that when warnings remain the same for such a number of time, the effectiveness just wears off. So we really just need to keep up the pace and keep, making sure that our policies are actually are effective and that they actually are in line with what's happening in the product market.
Okay, are there things happening in other societies where smoking is going down that are not happening in ours? And we all know, of course, of how big the illicit tobacco industry is at the moment and how it's grown since the pandemic.
So definitely that really is a challenge. We keep talking about illicit trade and we keep advocating for securing of the supply chain because we know that the majority of the illicit cigarettes are just coming from the so-called legal trade. So again, we need comprehensive tobacco control policies. And we started to see that, of course, in other countries, they really are seeing a drop in prevalence. For example, this report shows that South Africa has the highest smoking rates in Africa for all the countries who have conducted this kind of survey, just to compare. But globally, we've started to see in the Western countries that they've started to see a decrease in terms of smoking rates, and especially so in terms of the teenagers or the younger adults and the adolescents. They've started to see really a decrease in smoking rates. I think earlier this year, again, the UK, for example, introduced that they want to introduce what they call an end game policy, where they will basically phase out smoking year by year for the adolescents and the younger population.
Thank you very much indeed. Dr. Sharon Nyatsanza is Deputy Director at the National Council Against Smoking.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
All right, a moment to hear from you now. That's the number, of course. How are you feeling about the new government, the situation in different provinces? Kirk on the line from Cape Town. Kirk, hi, good morning. You want to talk about our new cabinet?
Yes, Stephen, good morning. I have a question. I have two questions. I haven't seen any press or anything regarding the new deputy president or the old deputy president who retained, number one. And number two, neither have I seen any information on the number of ministries that will exist in the new dispensation. Have I missed something, or has that not been announced as yet?
It hasn't. You haven't missed anything, Kirk. Look, I don't think we'll know until the president makes the cabinet announcement, frankly. And the coalition partners have not really spoken about that. I mean, there's been a lot of speculation, could there be a second deputy president? Could that go to the IFP? Things like that. But you'd need to change the constitution to do that. I think we'll only find out when the president makes the announcement, frankly.
You know what is the main reason for my question is Paul Mashatile's. I mean, the press is full of Paul Mashatile's shady dealings and family and.
Well, it's one media organization, but so far they provided evidence of what they claim. I think, yeah.
Yes. So, and in light of that, that is my question about.
Sure, what will happen with him?
The DA are saying that they will not tolerate any dodgy dealings by MPs. So let's see.
Yeah, no, Kirk, I don't know the answer, I'm afraid. It's fascinating to watch it, though. Active Citizen, hi. The government in KwaZulu-Natal, go for it.
I want to thank all the political parties in KwaZulu-Natal for forming government of provincial unity and making sure that the Gupta project fails also in KZN. And I want to say to the ANC national to say they should not be afraid and they should not allow themselves to be intimidated by MKP and the EFF members within the ANC who failed to campaign for the ANC, and we are not even sure that they voted for the ANC. They should not be intimidated by them and be afraid to appoint white people in the cabinet. I'm saying this to Ramaphosa to say we need DA to occupy strategic position, in particular, the security cluster and the economic cluster to make sure that this country goes forward. Thank you very much.
All right, Active Citizen, thank you. Strong view on the situation in KwaZulu-Natal. I don't know if you agree. Lots more to come, and of course we'll give away some money in the next little while. Good morning, you with SFM leading the conversation. It's 8 o'clock. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS car to 43517 now.
In our top stories, preparations underway to swear in President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa and Mpumalanga electricity bulk line for water provision destroyed. Good morning. Government says it's finalizing its preparations for the inauguration of the President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa at the Union Buildings in Pretoria tomorrow. Ramaphosa was re-elected as the President of the country at the first sitting of the National Assembly of the 7th Democratic Administration at the Cape Town International Convention Centre on Friday. Authorities have advised residents to use alternative routes as numerous streets around the Union Buildings, Hatfield and Sunnyside areas will be closed from 3 o'clock tomorrow morning. The International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor says they are ready to receive foreign dignitaries.
Invitations have been sent out to a number of heads of state and leaders of government, and we've been receiving responses. A large number of the invitations have gone to heads of state of the SADC region, as Central and East Africa, as well as all the chairpersons of the regional economic bodies, and of course the chairperson of the African Union Commission, the president of the Pan-African Parliament.
The inauguration of President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa will be broadcast on SABC News Live on SABC Plus tomorrow. The proceedings will also be streamed live on SABC News YouTube channel and SABC Radio. Womanist and socio-economic activist Mandisa Mashego says a petition alone cannot lead to the removal of a member of parliament. A statement follows the apology of the DA MP Ronaldo Gous for his controversial video that has sparked racism allegations against him. The newly sworn-in member of parliament is facing backlash for a 2009 video that resurfaced showing him making charged comments against the ANC government. A petition demanding his removal from office has gained momentum with almost 30,000 signatures. The DA is yet to react to the development. Mashego explains what the law stipulates in such a case.
Whether you believe that I made a racist remark or not, if I'm a member of parliament or legislature or a council, the reality is that your electoral laws do not allow a simple petition to have me removed. And it's very important that South Africans begin to wrap their heads around these things.
A 28-year-old man has been killed and 2 others wounded in a shooting incident in Ravensmead, Cape Town. Police spokesperson Wesley Twigg says the motive for the shooting is unclear. He says the wounded men are recovering in hospital. Twigg says they are probing a count of murder and 2 of attempted murder. No arrests have been made. Unknown people have completely damaged a 28 million rand electricity infrastructure to assist with the pumping of water during rolling blackouts in Kanyamazane in Mpumalanga. The infrastructure was built to supply electricity to the treatment plants. Eskom and the city of Umbombela agreed to exempt the infrastructure from power cuts due to water shortages in Kanyamazane and surrounding villages. The mayor of the city of Umbombela, Spongile Makushe Mazibuko,
have came up with a plan and sat with Eskom and decided that because of the load shedding that has been going on, and one would think perhaps it might come back at a later stage, because when there's load shedding our people don't get water because we can't pump. So we sat down with Eskom and said, let us have a dedicated line, a line that will never be load shedded, so that we can be able to pump 24/7. This project was supposed to have been completed last year, December. We have changed because of the vandalism that has been happening. They've been cutting down the poles to say then the next completion date would be in February. They continued cutting.
And finally, witnesses in Malawi say a car swerving to avoid a convoy carrying the body of the Vice President Saulos Chilima caused a crash in which 4 people were killed on Sunday night. Earlier reports had said a vehicle in the motorcade itself ploughed into mourners in a village. It has emerged a car travelling in the opposite direction hit a crowd that had lined the streets to see Chilima's coffin. Recapping the top story, government says it's finalizing its preparations for the inauguration of the President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa at the Union Buildings in Pretoria tomorrow. For SFM News, I'm Anne Musa.
And thank you. That's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43517. Forget everything else for a moment and listen to this. Outsurance Essential is a custom-designed and perfectly priced car insurance product available to owners of unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at under 125,000 rand. But the real game changer is the fact that your claim is paid out in cash, which gives you the freedom to choose any panel beater of your choice. SMS CAR to 43187 for an Outsurance Essential quote. That's CAR to 43187. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Cricket, Nicholas Purran's propelling the West Indies in their final T20 group game. That was a win against Afghanistan. And in soccer, Kylian Mbappe breaks his nose but leads France to a Euro victory over Austria. We'll bring you the details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just a reminder of the major delays between Mandidi and Quadakusa, northern parts of, KZN, north of Durban at least. The R102 is currently blocked. It's blocked just south of Tugela River. So if you normally drive the R102 or you travel between Mandidi and Quadakusa Stanker, just move across and use the N2. That is clear. The R102 currently blocked there. Durban's N2 north really heavy for sort of school holiday times. Backlogging from Cement Factory right through Spaghetti Junction. Junction up to Westwood Mall. There's also a breakdown on the southbound side, causing a backlog coming through Mgeni Road towards Spaghetti Junction as well. Into Joburg, the end. 12 and R24 each day, very heavy. If you're arriving in from the airport or from Boksburg and Benoni, big traffic through to Galulis this morning. And one from Randburg through to Sunninghill, slower than you might be expecting. And Cape Town, well, it's an easy run through on Tuesday. The heaviest of the highway, the N1 from N1 City through towards the city centre area via the elevated freeway. As far as the N2, M5 and M3 routes go, they're pretty empty and flowing. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
8 after 8, good morning. You're with SAFM Sunrise. You know the number 086 000 2032. We'll be talking about men's mental health in the next little while, something we don't talk about nearly enough. And men battle, I think, to express themselves, to tell people how they're feeling. It really is a big issue. Also coming up, more on load reduction, the impact that has on people, and also why it's happening. It's kind of the new load shedding. So all of that to come. Good morning, it's 8 after 8.
At SAFM Radio and at Stephen Grootes on Twitter.
Well, this competition is brought to you by Auto and General Insurance. Stand to win your share of 30,000 Rand in the Auto and General Combine and Qualify competition. Visit www.safm.co.za to enter. Auto and General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. Auto and General is giving you the chance to win your share of 30,000 Rand. You might be the lucky contestant to get a call from us, and we will present you with various objects that you can insure. If you combine the correct two that meet the qualifying criteria for a private advisor, you win 5,000 Rand. If you got an obligation-free insurance quote from Auto and General, you'll win an extra 1,000 Rand. That means, in total, you'll win 6,000 Rand. It's that simple. Terms and conditions apply. So you enter on the website, we call you, we put the question to you. If you get it right, you get 5,000 Rand. If you have an obligation-free insurance quote from Auto and General, you'll win an extra 1,000 Rand. And the person who entered, who we've got through to this morning, is Samkelo. Samkelo, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
How are you this morning? How are you feeling? You feeling lucky, Samkelo?
Yes, I am.
Okay, here's the question. For you to qualify for the private advisor service from Auto and General, which two options would you combine to get you to close the collective amount of 1 million Rand? I'm going to give you 4 options. Which two of them would get you over the collective amount of 1 million Rand for you to qualify for the private advisor service? Okay, Samkelo, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, I'm going to read all 4 of them, and then I'm going to ask you for the 2. Here we go. Okay, to get to over 1 million Rand, would it be a home audio theatre worth 369,000 Rand, a quad bike worth 48,000 Rand, a luxury watch worth 529,000 Rand, and buildings insurance worth 666,000 Rand. Which two of them will get you over 1 million Rand? Samkelo, is it the audio theatre, the quad bike, the luxury watch, or the building insurance?
The quad bike and the building insurance.
No. No, that doesn't get you to over 1 million Rand, Samkelo. It has to be over 1 million Rand. I'm so sorry, Samkelo. I really thought you were going to win, but the quad bike's only worth 48,000 Rand, so I'm afraid it won't get you to over that figure. I'm so sorry, Samkelo, but unfortunately you haven't won 5,000 Rand, so I'm sorry about that. So, and also if you'd received that obligation-free quote from Auto and General, you could have won another 1,000 Rand. Similar to private banking, this private advisor offers customers with a specialized service of having one point of contact when it comes to your insurance. For more information, you can visit Auto and General's website. It's autogen.co.za to find out more and to apply for this service. We will play again tomorrow. This competition was brought to you by Auto and General Insurance. Never not there. Auto and General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. You have it for banking, so why not for your insurance? Auto and General has just introduced their exclusive new private advisor service. It's perfectly tailored for customers with more to cover but less time to spend covering it. If you have more than a car to insure, car and home, and your combined in cover is valued at over 1 million Rand, you qualify for this personalized service and you will enjoy after-hours assistance, proactive policy management and more. To apply, visit autogen.co.za. Auto in General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
This year, we are celebrating Youth Month under the theme Actively Embracing the Socio-economic Gains of Our Democracy. As we commemorate the massacre of school children during the Soweto Uprising of 1976, we also celebrate the liberation of our beloved country. Hashtag Freedom30. Hashtag Youth Month. The National Pulse on SAFM.
What for you then, in terms of the now, are the biggest issues that you are concerned with going into this 11th hour of our coalition?
The political parties don't have much time at the moment in terms of dealing with critical issues. Let's take, for instance, what happens in Germany. Now, there's a lot that we can learn from the German experience. I mean, because Germany has been under coalition since the Second World War. Now, within 14 days, it is not possible for the political parties to do that. I think all they've got to do now is to identify key strategic questions facing South Africa. The question of unemployment, poverty, inequality, energy, industrialization, and some of those key questions.
Terry Tselani, the Chief Executive Officer of the Institute for Election Management Services.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m. Call us on 086 000 2032.
14 after 8, good morning. All right, well, various things going on. We'll play our competition again tomorrow. Looking forward to it with Auto in General. We'll, you know how to enter. You go to the website and you go from there. All right, lots going on this morning. Lots of conversations, of course, around our politics, our political situation. One of the things that I think might sort of be missed and something we really need to get our teeth into, and we're going to look at it in depth after 8:30, is this issue of load reduction. I'm sure it's having an impact on you. And one of the differences, it seems to me, is that it's going to hurt the township areas more than the suburban areas, which I think is a major issue. But basically, councils don't have enough electricity. This is not because Eskom hasn't given them enough power. It's because the councils, their systems, their distribution, their transmission, all of those systems aren't able to manage it. So I think that's a major problem. And on top of all of that is the issue of illegal connections as well. So I don't know how you're feeling at this stage around really the entire sort of coalition government. We'll take your calls on this in 086 000 2032. I don't know if you're feeling optimistic, if you're feeling pessimistic. Some people I think are very upset. I think some people are very excited. And I think some people are thinking that, you know, a lot's going to change in South Africa. And I think some people just think it's only going to get worse. So I think there are lots of different ways that people are going in this. And I can understand why. The other thing I would just like to say is it seems to me could be quite a while before people actually know what is going to happen. And I think some political leaders will have some key decisions to make. And so I think that will, you know, be quite an interesting period. I really think it will. Voice notes coming through this morning on 0614 104 107. And of course, lots to talk about.
Good morning, Stephen. David from Alberton. In line with ANC's culture of recalling the previous president when a new president has been elected, what's going to happen now with Ramaphosa come the time when ANC elects a new president? Are they going to be able to recall him?
Well, I don't know. I don't think they will be able to recall him. I don't know how it's going to pan out. There's so much more that's going to come from this. Voice notes about Orania as well this morning.
Good morning, Steve. The Orania case, I think blacks are a bit confused because then they need whites when they need them, and when it's Malema, whites must go, and they cannot even be in the government of national unity. So what's wrong with them if they go and stay aside? Because they are not needed in the current dispensation.
Interesting way of looking at it, I suppose. Robert, hi, good morning. How are you feeling about coalitions this morning?
Good morning, Stephen. The coalition, I think the parliament has to be dissolved and start afresh. Because, why? Because all the parties that are not included there, they will also going to complain. So I think the parliament have to dissolve, and then the negotiation, and then all the provinces also must be dissolved, because now you find ANC is ruling in
in northern in Eastern Cape, in Western Cape. So there's these differences that are going to be upright in the end. You see, so they have to dissolve and then go to negotiation and include all the parties and forming the government of national unity.
Okay, but I mean, how do we do that without using the result of the election? I mean, we need the result of the election to do that, and everyone says, "Oh, we can have another election." I don't think that would change anything.
But even the changing party, they have to go to Parliament and discuss the issue. How can they negotiate in order to form the government of national unity? Because now you find the DA in Western Cape and then Gauteng, the ANC. You see, it's unstable, in fact.
Well, I don't know, Robert. I mean, but that's the result of the election. I mean, we have to respect the results of the election. Otherwise, what do we do?
Yes, but in order to make the government of national unity, they have to see other way.
Yeah.
I think.
All right, Robert, thank you. Yeah, look, I mean, I don't know how it's going to play out. And I think actually, just as I think about it, sort of off the top of my head, one of the things we might see is political parties doing slightly odd things. You know, you'll have one part of a party, one person in a party saying X and one party saying Y, because one person in the same party saying Y, because they don't know what's going to happen. I think that's actually going to happen quite a lot. I think that's going to be really quite interesting. I think that's going to be fascinating. Let's go to Titus in Bushbuck Ridge. Titus, hi. During the elections, you're still thinking about that time. Go for it.
Good morning. I'm sure I'm a little bit late. A lot of people have spoken about this. But I just wanted to share my experience. I was in Hoedspruit. That's where I voted for the first time. Previously, I voted in the village called Dumfries. And the experience was that I was not aware how much white people go out and vote. And I was not surprised by the results that the TA got. And when I compare it to how in the village people feel like when they say, I'm not going to vote because anyway, this government is not doing anything, meaning the ANC government is not doing anything. They think they've done their best. That's the best what they could do. And in Hoedspruit, I saw a different people. I mean, white people, they go to those queues with kids, and then those kids will get a little bit of, that.
Yes, and the children go and vote.
Yeah, just to show them that this is important. You're gonna need to do this in the future. It's important for you to do it. And I was very surprised. It was very impressive. I loved it.
You loved it, okay. I mean, Titus,
I did.
There's a lot to it because I do think that. If voting is won by people, I mean, I think it was Hillary Clinton who said elections are won by people who turn up. And that's a result of that. But there's also, I think there's such a deep conversation to have around why people didn't vote. And I think it's one of the most important conversations we can have actually at the moment, in the top sort of five,
Yeah, I think there's a lesser and lesser understanding of the impact. We had 1994, but lots of people that voted during that time, it's probably maybe half or maybe a quarter, and the young people don't get it. Especially African white people, African young people don't get it. They think if they don't vote, that's a good thing that they can do, and they've not done justice either to the ANC, EFF, to all the African, black parties. But they didn't do any justice to them. And well done to all those that went out to cast their votes.
Titus, thank you. In Bushbuck Ridge, 21 after 8.
First in the morning, SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
Well, it is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. We don't normally sort of do months, but some things I think are very important and we must do them. Dr. Sats Cooper is a clinical psychologist, president of the Pan-African Psychology Union. Dr. Cooper, good morning. Welcome back to, dare I say, the SABC.
Good morning.
I've always thought that the roots of the issue of many of the issues with men and mental health is that as a boy you're told by society you cannot cry, and with girls they're told they can cry, and the result is that men grow up, and I think you see it all the time. I have a son and a daughter, and I watch little boys and I watch little girls, and I watch people growing up, and that men just lack the vocabulary, the way to express themselves, and that has so many consequences and symptoms. I mean, do you think I'm onto something with that?
I think partly yes. I think that we bring up our kids to look at themselves in a way that they need to be stoic, and the boys in particular are told, well, boys don't cry, and so on. So the lack of expression of things that bother them can result in consequences, and that is often self-hurt or other hurt. So you can act out, you can take it in, depression and so on, and you can become violent, if you like, because the society actually allows that kind of behavior rather than enables you to feel what you are thinking and seek help when you need to. We don't talk about the issues that impact us.
We've seen more now in recent times than ever before, men talking about how they feel about depression. Is that making a difference? The fact that more and more men are talking about it, and I don't even know what words to use. Men who you would think would not, sportsmen, people like that are beginning to talk about it more and more. That's really important.
I think that when celebrities, people who the rest of us look up to, are able to open up and show their vulnerabilities, that it normalizes it, because it is normal. We're not taught how to actually behave. We're not socialized into doing things for ourselves that make others more aware of them. So if I'm experiencing a depression, say, and that can easily happen to most of us because it's one of the highest undiagnosed health issues that confront people in the world. We don't have that ability to speak about it and say, look, I'm feeling low, and give me the space to do something about it, or seek help for it. And to make it worse, we don't have, societally, we don't have in our clinics, in our health system, unless you amongst the less than 15% who have a medical aid, and then too, we don't utilize the mental health component. So we're a society that's hopeless in taking care of it and for provision of those services.
How do you know if a person in your life, a friend, your partner, your football teammate, how do you know if they're suffering from something that actually they need some help? It's very difficult to go up to someone, how are you doing? I'm fine. Full stop. The person says nothing else. What do you do then?
Well, look, it's not that difficult to pick up that somebody is undergoing emotional or mental health stresses, because the behavior does change. People tend to withdraw more. They tend to go into themselves more. They shy away from activities that are joyful, that they usually used to want to be part of. And that withdrawal is one of the key symptoms that most people have for depression. But, depression also goes with a few other things. And societally, we are one of the most violent societies on earth, where we do things to ourselves, we respond in anger, we have no filter when it comes to telling somebody off, or worse, threatening them or physically going at them. And that's because our education system is hopeless. It does not train us for appropriate behavior. If you prepare people make them understand, if you're going through 1, 2, 3, really this is not on, because it impacts on you, it impacts on those around you. But I think also an added factor is we're all so engrossed in ourselves, we're unable to see that Stephen is not being part of us right now. And then it's too late. Then when something else happens, he acts out, and we have high incidence of suicide. The suicide rate in this country is very high. Southern Africa actually has a pandemic of suicide. Lesotho, Eswatini, South Africa, these are countries where, because of the lack of meaning in life through jobs and through finding yourself doing something meaningful, we have the highest unemployment rate in the world and the lowest employment rates in the world. So all of these things combine to create a toxic cocktail that can suck people in.
Dr. Sath Scooper, thank you very much indeed. Clinical psychologist, president of the Pan-African Psychology Union, 28 after 8.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. The West Indies.
Yeah, the same team that beat the Proteas, they got Afghanistan, beating them by 104 runs in their final T20 World Cup game. Nicholas Pooran smashing 98 of 53 balls. Pooran's explosive innings propelling the hosts to 218 for 5. All happened at the Darren Sammy Stadium in St. Lucia. Now we also see that both teams, they move into the Super 8s. Soccer, Bafana captain Ronwen Williams reflecting on his season at club level. He says he's had a season to remember, having amassed 30 clean sheets in 36 matches in all competitions. Also, he was hugely instrumental in getting Bafana the bronze medal at the AFCON earlier this year. Here's Ronwen Williams.
A roller coaster, a lot of ups, a lot of downs as well. I mean, losing 2 cup finals, it's not easy, it's not nice, especially to your bitter rivals. But there's a lot to be grateful for. The AFL, the league, a bronze medal with Bafana.
Now, the Chippa United captain Justice Shabalala is convinced that his teammate and Nigeria's top goalkeeper, Stanley Nwabali, will be a perfect fit for his former club, Orlando Pirates. Shabalala, who spent several years at Pirates before being loaned to various PSL clubs, believes a player of Nwabali's caliber deserves a big stage.
Choose any player, but for me, I like when you move from Chippa. If you go to Pirates, I will start with Pirates because I love Pirates. It's a good thing. It's a good achievement in South Africa. If you move to Chiefs also, it's a good achievement. Sundown is a good achievement. Also, maybe Super Sport.
And more soccer news. Kylian Mbappe will wear a mask when he returns to action after breaking his nose in France's 1-0 Euro 2024 win over Austria. Mbappe collided with Austrian defender Kevin Danso late in the match, leading to his departure in the 90th minute with a bloodied nose. The French Football Federation confirming he won't need surgery but will require a period of treatment. It's unclear if he'll play in France's next game against the Netherlands on Friday. And finally, tennis, the number 3 seed Daniel Medvedev reaching the second round of the Halle Open, beating Portuguese Nuno Borges 7-6, 6-4. That's a wrap of your sport on Sunrise. We'll bring you more on SAFM around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thanks very much indeed. Load reduction, why is it such a big issue? That's next. You're with SAFM leading the conversation, 8:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, Limpopo Premier Dr. Poppy Ramathuba says she is not concerned about the 2 centres of power in the province. The ANC's provincial chairperson is the former Premier Stan Matabata. Government says it's finalising its preparations for the inauguration of the President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa at the Union Buildings in Pretoria tomorrow. And the head of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, says member states should consider imposing sanctions on China for continuing to provide support to the Russian military. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM.
guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. If you drive between Mandini and Quatakusa, northern parts of KZN on the R102, just avoid that this morning. It's a very serious collision. Long queues of traffic. This is just south of the Tugela River is where we're talking about, the Harold Johnson Nature Reserve area. If you know where that is, that's where this crash is. Major delays leaving Mandini, even bigger delays arriving from Quatakusa on that R102 towards Mandini. Just hit the N2, use the N2 road just to keep yourself moving through that part of KZN. Just staying in the province, quite heavy around Spaghetti Junction this morning. N2 going north from the M7 up towards Westwood Malls, heavy. The N2 south over in Nunda Road towards Clare Road Bridge, heading to Spaghetti Junction, very slow. So breakdown on the southbound side. And the top end of the M4 stays busy with the roadworks enclosure of Brook Street section entering the CBD. Midrand staying busy towards the new road exit, the N12 and R20. 4 routes in from Ekurhuleni, still under a bit of pressure into Galuli interchange. And Cape Town, well, you can feel the fact that it's school holidays by just having a look at the volumes on the roads. The N2 inbound from the airport clear, the M3 from Newlands, Bishop's Court clear, the N7 from Mitchell's Plain up through Langa and Epping, Goodwood, all clear as well. The real standout highway hold-up is actually the N1, which is under a bit of pressure, passing Canal Walk and Century City through towards the elevated freeway area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Mediated conversation on SAFM.
27 minutes now to 9. The time for your mediated conversation this morning. Last week, the Minister of Electricity, Hunsenso Ramakgopa, said he believed that while Eskom was not implementing load shedding, many councils around the country would now have to regularly implement what's still called load reduction. In the past, this has meant a council would cut the power to a particular area if that area was drawing more power than its equipment has been designed for. Companies like Joburg City Power say if they don't do this, their equipment, including expensive transformers, will be damaged and often destroyed. This means that despite the fact we've not had load shedding for nearly 3 months, many people will still have regular power cuts. So then, what's causing this and what impact will it have on our communities? First, Sipho Gamede is the system operator for City Power, the person who literally presses the areas on and off. Then, Councillor Tommy Ngubane is the national chair of the South African South African Local Government Association, as their national chair for electricity and energy. Chris Yelland, as you know, is the energy analyst, and Dr. Trevor Ngwane is a sociologist and academic. We'll ask him about how this will increase the differences between suburbs and township areas. We start then with the system operator at City Power, literally the person who presses the button on and off, Sipho Gamede. Sipho, good morning. It's a pleasure for me to put you on the radio this morning.
Good morning, Stephen. Good morning to your listeners and the colleagues.
Why do you have to cut power to certain areas? Why do you implement load reduction?
Stephen, and we are doing this to protect the infrastructure, meaning the equipment that is out there, where equipment is overloaded, and also to protect the personnel that operates those equipment. And you may be aware that, and when it comes to this particular period of the year, during peak, we experience a lot of blow-ups, and we have transformers that are blowing up, switch gears that are blowing up. So in order to mitigate against that, we then decided as the company to create a plan that would then mitigate against such. And also maybe just to add on that, and these overloaded networks are caused by illegal connections and the meters that are bypassed by customers in some instances.
Okay, so if there were no illegal connections, you wouldn't have to do this. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. People have been moving into areas for a long time. We spoke to the CEO at City Power a couple of days ago. She suggested that it was also because of backyard dwellings. And we all know that people put rooms in the back of their homes. People move in and draw the electricity. My point is this has surely been developing over many, many years. Why? And I mean, the obvious question then is, why was there not an investment in more infrastructure to manage that load?
We have in some instances, but in some instances we are limited by the infrastructure, whether from ESCOM or maybe from other electricity generators. Just an example, and you have areas in the southwestern part of Johannesburg that are feeding Inner-Dale, Lenesia South, and all those. So we have about 3 substations there. We made an application, so it's one amongst others. We made an application to ESCOM to upgrade and increase the capacity. But because of their challenges on their side, they are not able to assist us. So what do we do then? Do we then leave the infrastructure to collapse, or we try to protect? So it's a decision that we had to come up with.
Okay, so you can't actually do the investment yourself. You would need help from ESCOM too.
That's correct, sir.
Okay. What would happen if you just left the power on? Would transformers literally explode and melt?
Yeah, and that would result in prolonged outages. So when you lose, for instance, a power transformer because it was overloaded, and to replace a power transformer, and some of the customers were then affected by that, you would have maybe an outage that can last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Do we need such to happen to our customers? As a responsible supplier, we feel that we cannot allow that to happen.
Okay. Are suburbs affected less by this than township areas?
Yeah, you see, you've got, in fact, in the township areas, as you may be aware, that when we did our designs, and our designs were talking to 5 kVA per stand, and in those areas when we electrified them, and there were no geysers. So, and in most of those areas, they've built sheds, they've built backyard rooms, and they're overloading our network. So we do not have much control in terms of limiting, because in those areas as well, meters are then bypassed. Even if when you want to load limit via meters, they are bypassed. So, and hence we then classify this. But in the affluent or township suburbs, so to say, we've got geyser relays that we are controlling them daily from our control room, whereby we switch them off during peak, we switch them off from 5 in the morning till about 8, 9 in the morning. So we are able to control those. And also in the evening. So meaning during peak, we are able to do that. But over and above that, we are working on limiting meters. There's a project that is currently that is currently running to remotely limit those customers. So it's not that we are targeting a certain sector of our communities. That is not true.
Sipho Gamede, thank you very much indeed. System operator at City Power. Do appreciate the time. 20 minutes now to 9. Continue a mediated conversation around load reduction. You with SAFM. Councillor Tamian Gobani is the National Chairperson for Electricity and Energy at the South African Local Government Association, representing councils around the country. Councillor Gobani, good morning.
Good morning, Stevens. I'm happy that today you have invited me. I normally invite myself to your program.
I know what you mean.
Thank you.
Is there any assessment of how big this problem is, of how many councils are actually affected by this problem? They'll all have to do what City Power in Joburg has been doing.
Well, Stevens, I heard the previous speaker whom you have invited. I agree with him up to the point in terms of how he diagnosed the problem. It's important that when we diagnose the problem, we separate the primary factors from secondary factors. From the eyes of the municipality, what is the primary factor? The primary factor, we characterize it as the population growth against an underinvestment system trap. Remember, Stevens, census told us that our population has grown by 7 million. We are 62 million population in South Africa. And what is interesting is that they have said out of 257 municipalities in the country, wall to wall, 50% of the 62 million, which is 31 million, is located only in 17 municipalities. These are urban municipalities called metros, 8 metros, and secondary cities. So this is what has happened, is that the actual capacity of supply, basic supply, is out of balance in terms of the objective demand. This is the primary factor.
Okay, but Dr. Councillor Ngubane, I mean, we've known about migration for years. I mean, for years. So why didn't councils act on this sooner?
Well, the matter is not entirely in the hands of the municipality. It's a conversation that you must also have with the finance minister, because for us to expand the capacity so that it can meet the demand, we need an investment, first and foremost, of the resources so that we can expand the capacity. Remember, there are many people who are in Gauteng, but look at what is being allocated to those municipalities. The society is nomadic, but if you look at the allocation by the Minister of Finance, you know, it doesn't appreciate that the people are presently in the 17 municipalities. So if you look at allocation, that's where the problem is. So the first thing is that what will put a solution in motion is the allocation of sufficient resources to ensure that we expand the capacity so that it is in balance between the supply and demand.
But surely this should have happened 20 years ago. I mean, Selga and other organizations should have shouted and screamed and said to the ministers of finance at the time, look, this is a major problem. I don't remember them screaming. I mean, you may have, but I don't remember it.
I see it in the meeting that deals with the question of budget. I always argue this matter, just that it might not be exposed to the public. We've argued that the stats that the centers is giving us is not a nice to know information, but is meant to ensure that we can predict so that we can plan accordingly. So as things stand, what is actually happening is that the allocation of resources to the municipalities is dwindling, whereas the demand is going up. That is the conflict that we need to deal with. Actually, Stevens, I want to say to you, Stephen, is that what we are seeing is just a tip of an iceberg. The nation is facing a much deeper problem. Actually, foundational services are under constraint. You need a two-tier system where you are mopping the floor while fixing the leaking tap. You know, you need to then say, there are people in the 17 municipalities, 31 million. How do you respond to that in the immediate sense? But in the medium and long term, how do you ensure that you attack the root causes that lead to people migrating?
Councillor Tami Ngubane, we'll leave it there. Thank you. National Chair for Electricity and Energy for the South African Local Government Association. You with SFM. Continue your mediated conversation this morning around load reduction. 14 minutes to 9. Chris Yelland is the energy analyst, at EE Publishers. Chris, good morning.
Morning, Stephen, and morning, listeners.
Okay, obviously it seems on the face of it from what we've heard that there's been a failure of planning and a failure of budget allocation that's led to this, and in the short term, this problem is only going to get worse.
Yeah, look, I think we are all getting tired of hearing these municipalities make out that they're doing all the right thing and that the problem is somebody else's. Either it's Eskom or it's government or it's urbanization, or it's the dam customers that use too much electricity. Of course, it's electricity theft, and all of these excuses. The reality is that electricity distributors should have resilient electricity distribution systems, networks, and they need to take action.
Chris, I don't know if you're able to strengthen what we're hearing on the line. I don't know if it doesn't sound like a speaker, but it doesn't sound like a very strong line. I do want to ask, is Eskom a big part of this? We've heard that, that the council in Joburg, for example, can't do certain things unless Eskom does certain things. Has Eskom got to be held accountable for this too?
Look, the first thing I want to say is that we mustn't think that this is something new. Load reduction has been done by Eskom for several years and is still being done today. It is as much an Eskom problem as it is a municipal problem. And yes, it is true that municipalities rely on a certain supply capacity from Eskom, and sometimes Eskom's supply capacity is inadequate for the growth in population in the municipal areas. And one also has to remember that many municipalities have significant arrear debt to Eskom. So Eskom sometimes will say, well, we're not going to increase the supply to your town because you can't even pay for the existing electricity that you buy. And so yes, Eskom is a constraining factor. Eskom is also part of the load reduction problem.
Could all of this take a very long time to fix? For a lot of people, load shedding may be over, but their lived experience is that load shedding, the net impact is going to be absolutely the same. A large number of people are going to live without a reliable supply of electricity still for a long time to come.
Yeah, you see, this load reduction, like load shedding, is the result in underinvestment in infrastructure for many years. And in this case, it is underinvestment in a new distribution infrastructure to meet growth demand as a result of urbanization. It's also as a result of poor maintenance, neglected maintenance. And this is not something that happens, in an instant. It's resulting from years of neglect, and it's going to take years of investment to sort out. And of course, these municipalities, many of them are very poorly managed. They are in financial trouble themselves. In fact, just to give you an example, City Power of Johannesburg misappropriate about 10 billion rands a year that is given to them by National Treasury for free basic electricity for indigent households in Johannesburg. The vast majority of that money is misappropriated by municipality, by City Power, and is used to sustain their business instead of spending it on the poor. It's actually robbing from the poor in order to finance their business, which is poorly managed and is in deep financial trouble. And of course, it's very easy to misappropriate money that was meant for maintenance or investment in new infrastructure, refurbishment. And so the financial state and the management state of municipalities is part of the problem.
Chris Yellen, thank you very much indeed, the energy analyst from EE Publishers. In a moment, Dr. Trevor Ngwana, the director of the Centre for Sociological Research and Practice at the University of Johannesburg, 10 minutes to 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still quite slow on the N1 coming out of Pretoria down to Joburg this morning. Old Joburg Road down to a new road is fairly heavily packed. There is a crash on the side of the highway as well near Samrand Road, which is obviously attracting a bit of onlooking. N12 and R24 routes coming in from Galuli's still backlogging on both options as you arrive from Ekurhuleni in towards the N3 highway. Galuli's Durban, Spaghetti Junction and Mgeta Road still jam-packed both ways. Roadworks going north and a breakdown and some construction going south. A reminder of this major crash between Mandini Mandini and Quadakusa. It's on the R102. It's just south of the Tugela River. If you know that section or that area, it's near the Harold Johnson Nature Reserve. Very heavy backlogs both to Mandini from Quadakusa and coming out of Mandini on your way south. So what we're saying is avoid that. There is a local route option available around the crash scene, but it's heavily backed up. That road is closed and all that traffic being diverted there. So use the M2 Mandini Quadakusa to avoid the worst of it. Cape Town, pretty open and flowing highways this morning, with the exception of Route 1, the N1 between Century City and the elevated freeway staying busy. And just if you're driving back into Cape Town, looks like there might be some roadworks that have gone back in between Caledon and Botrafia, just on the eastern side of Botrafia. The N2 is queuing quite heavy on the Cape Town bound carriageway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Water infrastructure vandalism has costly and usually dangerous consequences. Stealing of manhole covers leads to the death of children. Every broken pipe or vandalized pump doesn't just cost money, but it also threatens our access to clean water, disrupts service delivery, and endangers public health and safety. Help us in the fight against water infrastructure vandalism by reporting any suspicious activity to the City of Johannesburg on 0800 002 587. Your vigilance can prevent a death or disaster. This message is brought to you by Johannesburg Water, a water utility that cares.
Get private banking levels of service from an Auto & General private advisor. This exclusive service is perfectly tailored for customers with more to cover but less time to spend covering it. If you have more than a car to insure and your combined cover is valued at over 1 million rand, you qualify for this personalized service. Enjoy after-hours assistance, proactive policy management and more when you apply at autogen.co.za. Auto & General. Never not there. A&G is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Richmond United ladies have big plans to spend more time in the top 4. But First Touch FC wants to live up to their name and put together first touches that will trouble their opponents. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch them Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. Richmond United Ladies FC versus First Touch Ladies FC. This Saturday 22 June at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Mediated Conversation on SAFM.
7 minutes to 9. Continuing your mediated conversation this morning around load reduction. Dr. Trevor Ngwane is the Director at the Centre for Sociological Research and Practice at the University of Johannesburg. Dr. Ngwane, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen, and your listeners.
So it seems to me that the most likely places that will suffer from this will be township areas, and the places that probably won't suffer from this are suburban areas. In other words, many township areas around the country are going to really suffer load shedding for a very long time to come.
Yes, Stephen. Of course, load shedding affects everyone, but poor areas, black working class areas, townships, shack settlements, rural villages, they are targeted. Basically, they are targeting the weak and powerless. They are targeting those they think won't have the power to resist. In fact, it's just a continuation of apartheid, what we call energy racism, because as you know, poor black people, they are still caught up in apartheid geography, they are still caught up in poverty, inequality, poorly serviced areas. Basically, this is a question of blaming the victims, scapegoating those who cannot defend themselves.
A big part of this, as you've heard the City Power and others say, is illegal connections. And this is a real problem. And I mean, the evidence is there that many communities are using illegal connections. Why are people still not paying for services they consume?
Yeah, so, just think of it this way, Stephen. Under apartheid, there was a lot of stigmatization of shack settlements. The apartheid government would send bulldozers, these squatters. But basically it was because it was failing to build houses. So so-called illegal connections are function a result of the failure to roll out electricity to those who need it.
Government and the ANC have told communities they must pay for the electricity that they use. And this, the ANC said a couple of years ago, this is going to be the new thing, and the deputy president at the time said it. Are people just ignoring that? Obviously, it's also very tough to pay at the moment.
Well, we should look at our socio-economic situation. South Africa being one of the most unequal societies in the world. You know, the post-apartheid democracy has made the rich richer, the poor poorer. Energy is a human right, Stephen and your listeners. There's things called energy poverty, energy insecurity, which means we can talk of energy justice. Those poor people, those masses, those people in shacks, they deserve affordable, clean, safe energy.
One of the things that this is going to do, surely, is to increase the inequality between people who are in township areas and people who are in suburban areas. And in fact, make it much harder to sort of get a job or to start a business in a township. In other words, that inequality, which is racialized, obviously, will simply be increased by this. And it could be like this for another 20 years, if you look at what the councils are saying.
Stephen, you're talking about 20 years. I'm talking about 50 years of inequality, of injustice, of suffering. Basically, the continuation of the, oppressions, of apartheid, of colonialism, of slavery. We should put a stop to this, Stephen. We should stand up against energy racism. We should stand up against governments and authorities which are not serving the masses, only serving the few. I think enough is enough. It's time for the masses to stand up and defend themselves.
What kind of policy do you think government should be following here? And obviously, electricity, someone has to pay for it, but what kind of policy do you think should be followed that would, for you, be a more equitable and non-racist policy?
Well, for example, take tariffs. We should have lifeline tariffs whereby, poor people, low-income people get mostly free electricity because they use little of it. And then those who are making money, profit, should pay more so that there's cross-subsidization. But now you get politicians, I'm sorry, people like DA and them, they put this stigma on cross-subsidization. But our country is not composed only of the rich, of the upper middle class. The poor, the working class must be catered for. And as Chris Yelan says, we need massive investment, in infrastructure. This has not been happening. We need a new government controlled by the people which prioritizes the needs, the developmental needs of the country, of society, and not those of white monopoly capital and the aspirant black bourgeoisie.
Do you think this problem is ever going to be resolved, Dr. Ngwane? I mean, we've had this issue of energy poverty in our townships for many, many years. Do you think that actually there's ever going to be a solution, or do you think this is just going to be how it is for a very long time?
We have to stand up and fight. We socialists, we used to believe that we are driving a train, we are at the vanguard in front, pulling society along, to utopia. But now it looks like actually you are at the back, putting the brake as the train goes over the cliff. So the matter is in our hands. Resident associations in the suburbs, township committees, shack settlement organizations, we should come together and demand a government which is responsive. Actually, we should take power, find a way of making sure that this political instability with government of national unit is a chance, a window for us to actually change the way this country is governed.
Dr. Trevor Ngwane, thank you, Director at the Centre for Sociological Research and Practice at the University of Johannesburg. My thanks also to the energy expert, Chris Yeland. Councillor Tommy Ngubane is the National Chair of Electricity and Energy for the South African Local Government Association. And starting us off, Sipho Gamede is the System Operator for City Power with us this morning. So that brings an end to your mediated conversation this morning. And of course, that brings an end to our programme this morning as well. And, of course, we will be with you tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think, is going to be quite an important day, by the way, because tomorrow we have the inauguration of the President, and shortly after that, we should get the Cabinet. So kind of looking forward to all of the things that are going to happen over the next few days, and just to see how it's all going to play out. I think it's going to play out in interesting and complex ways. So I think it's going to be a very, very interesting and a very, very important time. All right, we will be back with you tomorrow from Mdu, from Stanza, from Limpopo, from Melissa, myself. Look after yourself. You're with SAFM leading the conversation. It's 9 o'clock. Good morning, Kathy.
Good morning, Stephen Grootes. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS car to 43517 now.
In our top stories, Ramatuba focused on ensuring basic services delivered in Limpopo and preparations underway to swear in President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa. Good morning. Limpopo Premier Dr. Poppy Ramatuba says she is not concerned about the two centres of power in the province. The ANC's provincial chairperson is the former Premier Stan Matabata. ANC had two centres of power in KwaZulu-Natal and the Free State before last month's elections. Ramatuba, who's Limpopo's first woman to hold the position of Premier, says although there are two centres of power, their focus is on collectively ensuring basic services are delivered.
Whatever we do, all of us, it's a collective decision. We are guided by as I've said, there's a manifesto of the ANC, which we are going to have an ANC Lehotla that will come up with policies as guided by that manifesto. And then all of us focus on what is to be done, which is service delivery. I don't think there should be any problem, because all what we need is to make sure that our voters come back and say, yes, you came, you promised, you have delivered.
Government says it's finalizing its preparations for the inauguration of the President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa at the Union Buildings in Pretoria tomorrow. Ramaphosa was re-elected as the President of the country at the first sitting of the National Assembly of the 7th Democratic Administration at the Cape Town International Convention Centre on Friday. Authorities have advised residents to use alternative routes as numerous streets around the Union Buildings, Hatfield and Sunnyside areas will be closed from 3 o'clock tomorrow morning. The International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor says they are ready to receive foreign dignitaries.
Invitations have been sent out to a number of heads of state and leaders of government, and we've been receiving responses. A large number of the invitations have gone to heads of state of the SADC region, as Central and East Africa, as well as all the chairpersons of the regional economic bodies, and of course the chairperson of the African Union Commission, the president of the Pan-African Parliament.
The inauguration of President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa will be broadcast on SABC News live on SABC Plus tomorrow. The proceedings will also be streamed live on SABC News YouTube channel and SABC Radio. Police are searching for suspects in a shooting incident in which a 28-year-old man was killed and two others wounded in Ravensmead, Cape Town. Police spokesperson Wesley Twigg says the wounded men are recovering in hospital. Twigg says they are investigating one count of murder and two of attempted murder. Experts have urged men to get screened for various illnesses as the country observes Men's Health Month. According to government, South African men die at a younger age than women, often from preventable causes. South African Medical Association chairperson Dr. Mvuyisi Mzukwa says men choose not to seek medical assistance even when they need it.
Looking at our recent history now of COVID, statistics are showing us that most people who died are men. This could be due to many reasons. It could be because they have other unknown medical conditions, chronic conditions that they are living with, but also there's a tendency among men to not really seek medical attention when they need it. We don't know what could be the reason for that, but that's what we've been struggling with.
And finally, the head of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, says member states should consider imposing sanctions on China for continuing to provide support to the Russian military. Speaking in Washington, he said it was important for NATO to confront the threat of China.
At some stage, we should consider some kind of economic cost if China doesn't change their behavior, because now China is the main supporter of Russia's war effort, war aggression against Ukraine, the biggest war in Europe since the Second World War, and at the same time they try to have a normal relationship with European allies, and this cannot work in the long run.
Recapping the top story, the Limpopo Premier Dr. Poppy Ramathuba says she's not concerned about the two centres of power in the province. The ANC's provincial chairperson is the former Premier Stan Matabata. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a code today, SMS CAR to 43517.
This year, we are celebrating Youth Month under the theme Actively Embracing the Socio-economic Gains of Our Democracy. As we commemorate the massacre of school children during the Soweto uprising of 1976, we also celebrate the liberation of our beloved country. #Freedom30, #Youth Month.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
Did you know that with Outsurance Essential, valid claims are paid out in cash? Let me say that again. Outsurance Essential pays your car insurance claim in cash. That's cash paid into your bank account that you can use to repair your car at any panel beater of your choice. Outsurance Essential for cars older than 5 years, not financed, and valued under 125,000 Rand. SMS CAR to 43187 for a quote. That's CAR to 43187. SMS now, a licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's online.
The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Our thing is hard work. Hard work beats all. We get measured on our hard work and our effort as a group. And also if you're brave, I mean, you're not scared, that's where we measure each other on. And then the respect will come. You see how hard the guy's working, you know what it will give for you on the field. And that's what we work on. And also, like, we're playing for our families, we're playing for our lives, you're playing for the country. If you need to be motivated to play in that level, then you're in the wrong place. Once you've done your job well, if someone else is struggling, then you help them out. Because we knew if we win, we just showed what it means, what you can do when people use diversity at its best and when people from different places come and have one common goal. And for us, playing wasn't pressure, it was more of a privilege. When you talk about purpose and vision, you have to know why you're doing something. And your why has to be bigger than the doubt that you have over yourself. And sometimes your purpose has to be more than just about you. It must mean that if you don't do this, you must think how many other people it will affect. For me, it's about my family. I want to provide for my family and my extended family too. I have a foundation. There are kids that we look after. When I do well and I play well and people want to work with you, people want to be associated with you, they want to donate to what you're doing. So I know the harder I play, the more I get up in the mornings when I don't want to get up, I know kids are getting fed. That's my why. Even when I'm done playing, that's what I want to do. Make the world a better place in working in my foundation and work. And for us as a group is how do we make South Africans proud? How do we keep South Africans a little bit more hopeful?
Oh, what a great place to start off the week, even though we're not quite starting it out. Yesterday, of course, was a public holiday in lieu of the 16th of June falling on a Sunday. So you're listening to The Talking Point. Welcome to the show on this Tuesday morning. We're opening there with the two-time Rugby World Cup winner and captain of the Springboks, that is Siya Kolisi. By the way, his birthday also happened to be on this past Sunday. So happy belated birthday to the captain of the Springbok team. But perhaps what he said in that clip is something that we can borrow to form part of our conversation this morning. And it's around common purpose, right? I don't know about you, but the last 3 weeks have been a whirlwind. There has been so much happening. I mean, just from going to the elections, just that final build up to the 29th of May, to votes counted, to the need to form a government of sorts, to the developments we had last week, and finally at the 11th hour, having Parliament then elect Cyril Ramaphosa as the country's president. And tomorrow we've got the inauguration. So there have been all of these big events happening in a short space of time. And it feels like we are caught up in the motion. And there's very little time to sort of step back, take it all in, reflect on it fully, and process it and ask ourselves, well, what does all of this truly mean?